Welcome to the Sporting Life Infogol Champions League Round of 16 Best Bets preview. I'm Dom and I'm delighted to be joined by top tipsters Jake Osgathorpe and Tom Carnduff to look ahead to this week's upcoming action. Chaps, before we get into it, big news in Sporting Life Infogol Towers. Tom Carnduff, a 50-1 winner, Bayern Munich player no less. How do you do it?
Well, thanks, Dom, for mentioning that. I'll slip you that £10 I said I'd give you for afterwards. But no, a great set-piece mismatch. Nicolas Sula scoring the first goal against Bayer Leverkusen, a big winner at the weekend. Hopefully it sets us up for a good Champions League week. Okay, for more top tips like that, head over to sportinglife.com/football. Right, chaps, let's get into it. First fixture is Bayern Munich taking on SALZBURG. A tight affair last time out. Tom, let's start with you. Your best bet for this one. Yeah, BRENDEN 3+ tackles at 10-3 in this game for me. People who followed our transfer blog and our transfer coverage throughout January will know this name. He was a name that was linked with the Premier League as well, a SALZBURG attacking midfielder. And SALZBURG, unsurprisingly, a Red Bull team, high energy, lots of tackles, 22.6 tackles per Champions League game so far. That's the highest average of any of the 32 teams involved in the competition. They had 27 in that first leg. Everyone expected to contribute, and Brenden Aaronson, a player who's done this on more than one occasion in this competition so far. So for me at 10-3, that's a price that I think really appeals for a team that just consistently do it. This isn't one that's gone 50 and the rest are 10. They're consistently going around that 20 to 27, as we said, marker there. So yeah, for me, 3+ tackles at 10-3 looks a great bet here.
Okay, Jake Osgathorpe, your best bet?
Yeah, fairly simple for me. I'm going Bayern Munich to win to 0. May surprise quite a few of the viewers. Obviously, Bayern Munich defensively not great. Salzburg have shown that they are steady going forward. But I just think there is a massive gulf between these two teams that perhaps wasn't reflected in the scoreline in the first leg. Bayern Munich won the XG battle 2.6 to 0.9 in that game. So it should have been a comfortable victory for Bayern. And you know, at home so far in the Champions League this season, they've allowed just 0.5 expected goals against per game. Salzburg away from home averaging 0.8 non-penalty expected goals for per game, and that came in a group that you would argue is probably one of the weakest groups that of the Champions League, with Sevilla, Lille and Wolfsburg in there. So I do think that there is a massive mismatch between these two teams, and I do think that Bayern Munich will win this quite comfortably and do it with what would be admittedly a rare shutout.
Okay, let's move straight on to Tuesday's other game. It's Liverpool taking on Inter Milan. Jake, we're going to start with you. What's your best bet?
Liverpool to win with a -1 handicap. It's around 6-4, and not to say the same thing again, but I do think there's a massive gulf between these two teams. Liverpool were far from the best in the first leg, but still cruised to a 2-0 victory. The way in which they defended was excellent. They allowed just 0.5 expected goals against in that match, which is a really strong defensive display. And now they're back at Anfield, and everyone knows that A, Anfield is a fortress in general, but B, especially on a European night. And you know, everything about this game, for me anyway, screams a comfortable Liverpool win, because the setup of the time means Inter are going to have to go for it. Liverpool have arguably the best transitional counter-attack in world football, with the likes of Salah, Jota, Mane, Luis Diaz if he plays. It could be a really, really sort of just a bad night for Inter, to put it bluntly. They've averaged 2.4 expected goals for per home game in the Champions League this season, and that's come against the Spanish champions, Atletico Madrid, the league leaders in both Portugal and Italy, Porto and AC Milan. So I don't think playing against Inter will affect this Liverpool team.
Okay, Tom, do you expect Inter to struggle at Anfield?
Yeah, I think everything Jake said there I can't really disagree with. So for me, in terms of a best bet, I'm going for an angle that won at the weekend when Liverpool played West Ham at Anfield. I'm looking at corners, more specifically over 11.5 corners, best price of 7-4. For me, it's always a kind of an avenue that is interesting when Liverpool are playing at home. They're one of the Premier League's highest corner takers, there's no surprise there. They average 7.59. And for the Inter side of things, I think only two teams it is probably see a higher average amount of corners in away games, but the difference is that that's because they're conceding so many, whereas Inter on the other side of things taking 6.46 per Serie A game. So two sides that have a high average amount of corners, 7 each in that first leg as well. I just think a price like that really jumps out for a market that is often one that does deliver when it comes to Liverpool home games. So yeah, over 11.5 corners, 12 plus corners, heavy view at 7-4 looks a really strong bet to me.
I do like that bet. When you're looking at corner bets, you like to look at styles, don't you? Team styles. And Liverpool in particular, with the way they attack the fullbacks, getting to almost the byline and crossing, you're going to get a lot of corners. And Inter's 3-5-2 system provides the same. So yeah, 7-4 looks quite big.
They owe us after the weekend as well. Liverpool always have more corners than the opposition. West Ham managed to have more at the weekend. So they're going to... I'm sure that's one area that Klopp's looked at and said, yeah, we need to win that battle this time.
Okay, that's Tom and Jake's best bets for the games on Tuesday night. For more detailed information on those bets and the rest of the Champions League fixtures, you can download the Sporting Life app now. It's available on Android and iOS. Right, chaps, on to Wednesday. Let's start with the fixture that looks all but done. Manchester City taking on Sporting. Tom Carnduff, let's come to you first.
Okay, I've had kind of a few look-arounds in this one and a few small ones. I'm going to go big price, inspired by the weekend winner. John Stones' first goal scorer is 28-1. Wow. Nice each-way shout, goes above 9-1 in that one. Always a player I have an eye on when it comes to the goal scorer market, particularly when City are in home games, for the pure fact that they get a lot of corners at home, they get a lot of opportunities to score, and Stones is such a big aerial presence for them in terms of the averages. His 3.7 aerials won per game, the highest of any City player in the Premier League. The same for the Champions League as well. No City player sees a higher amount of aerials won. 0.5 shots per Premier League game. He's had 3 shots in his 4 Champions League outings as well. If you want to go for the shots, I think 6-5, just for him to have 1+ total shots in this one. I will chuck João Cancelo in there, because I always mention João Cancelo. I need to chuck him in. But rotation-wise, a bit more worried about that position when you got Walker, Zinchenko.
I think Walker's suspended.
Yeah, potentially. But for Diaz and Ake as well, the kind of injuries there, I feel that Stones is more of a certain start on this one. So yeah, going to go for him in this one to have the opportunities to score. And 28-1, even on the each way, looks decent for a game that City should get a few more goals than we expect.
Can you imagine if he backs up a 50-1 with a 28? That'd be absolute scene.
Imagine if it's Cancelo now. For weeks saying it's going to be Cancelo, the 1 week ago. No, let's switch it up. Oh no, what's happened? But yeah, both are interesting. But Stones for me, I think just edges.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Jake, do you think Manchester City are going to keep up the current momentum they've got?
Yeah, it's hard to see anything else. But like Tom, I've gone to the goal scorer market. For me, a little bit safer, you could say. RAHEEM Sterling to score any time, which I think is the best price of 21-20 currently. A difficult game to kind of assess. As we've said, the tie's pretty much over, 5-0. It's going to, Sporting are in a title race in Portugal, so they're probably going to rotate some of their players. Man City will do that as well. And that brought me to Sterling, because obviously he didn't feature in the Manchester derby, so he should be well rested for this, and scored a brace last time out in Portugal. XG per 95 of 0.8 in the Champions League, which is really, really high. Shows that he consistently gets on the end of good chances when he plays. And Sporting Lisbon, like with all the Portuguese opposition, when it comes to playing the best teams in Europe, they are some way short. You look at Porto, they've been hammered by Liverpool pretty much every time they played against them. Benfica got hammered by Bayern twice this season, and obviously Sporting Lisbon got comfortably beaten on their own patch. So something similar, but when it's such a one-sided game and so many changes likely, I think the goal scorer route is the best way to go down.
Okay, Jake, we're going to stick with you as we move on to the final fixture of today's video. That's Real Madrid taking on PSG. PSG, of course, just about edged it in the previous tie. Is it going to be another cagey affair?
I think so, yeah. This is, to me, one of the most fascinating tie of the 4, just purely because of the game state. It's a really awkward one, because if Madrid do go attack-minded, they're going to get picked off with Mbappe, Neymar, Messi. They're going to get shredded. But by the same token, they have to at some point. So I think it's a little bit of a mismatch in that regard, purely because Casemiro, who's Madrid's holding midfielder, is suspended. Ferland Mendy, the first choice left back, is suspended also, which is a huge blow, because he's, the next best to him is Marcelo, who's about 57. And you fancy Neymar or Mbappe to really cause issues, and we saw what Mbappe did to Carvalho in the first leg. So I did struggle to find a bet that I liked for this one, but I just think the price of PSG is just a bit too big to go there and win the game at 17-10. I said it in the outright preview show that we did for the last 16, that I do think that when PSG are at their best, like, their ceiling is much higher than Real Madrid's ceiling. And I still think that's the case, and nothing about that first leg changed my mind. The way in which they dealt with Madrid was excellent, particularly defensively. And Yeah, all in all, I do think that PSG from a 11 versus 11 standpoint are stronger. And I think the way in which Poch organised them in the first leg was excellent. Do something similar here and they could go to the Bernabeu and make a real statement.
Okay, thank you, Jake. Tom, let me guess, you're going to see us out with 1,000 to 1.
I wish, but I couldn't let any Champions League discussion go without chucking a card bet in there. Love a card bet in this one. Eder Militao to be carded any time in the game is 7-2 best price for me. It's one that won in the first leg. I kind of doubled him up with Danilo Pereira 18-1. I'm going to chuck another plug in there just to get that in as a card double. But more than happy to back him again in this one, averaging 1.2 fouls per La Liga game, 1.1 in the Champions League as well. Obviously, he's got the history, so the fouls that come in with him suggest that probably there should have been more cards. There haven't as well. The referee, Danny Michele, did we say we settled on?
Michele, yeah.
2 Champions League games this season, he's shown 7 yellows and a red in. So there is the potential for this, and you don't want to speculate too much, but in these types of games, we've got 2 European giants. There is always the case that if the game starts to go away, there's so much on the line there as well. I just think in a game that could see a fair few cards, Militao at 7-2 looks a really strong bet to me.
Yeah, I'd just throw in Carvajal and Mendy as well. And if Hakimi plays, Hakimi, just simply because of the matchups. I mean, Mbappe's going to be up against Carvajal. Neymar's going to be up against Marcelo, and Vinicius Junior, who's one of the most foul players in the Liga, up against Hakimi. So just throw them all in a bet builder and it'll
There's your 1,000 to 1.
Yeah, there you
ish, probably, roughly, but there it is if we want it. There we go.
Excellent. Thank you, chaps. Well, that is just about it for our Champions League round of 16 second leg best bets preview. For more like that and to benefit from a team that have just surpassed 4,000 points of profit, head over to sportinglife.com. We'll be back with your Champions League round of 16 second week preview next week.